final game, Charles Steinberg had concocted this genius idea of the game was over, they had some ceremonies, they had a camera down at Camden Yards, they had some picks and shovels, and the grounds crew took out home plate at Memorial Stadium. They put it into a limo and took it down to Camden Yards. And Jim McKay, the great sports broadcaster from ABC Sports, one of the most famous sports broadcasters in television history, he was down there. He's a Baltimore guy. And so when the home plate arrived and they installed it at Camden Yards, they put that on a satellite link on the big scoreboard at Memorial Stadium. The people cheered and went nuts and whatnot. And then after all these ceremonies now, it was very quiet, and the music, the stirring music from the movie called The Field of Dreams, you know, a very sort of, you know, stirring kind of music, dun-dun, dun-dun-dun, you know, whatever. And all of a sudden, there was no announcement ever made. Brooks Robinson, in his old uniform, pops up out of the Oriole dugout and runs over to third base. And the place goes nuts. Brooksy. And then Frank Robinson, same thing, in his uniform, runs out across the field out to right field. I mean, even talking about it now, it kind of brings a tear to my eye. I mean, it makes me emotional even just remembering it, but because there was not a dry eye in the house by then. They're cheering, and then everybody's just overjoyed at all these great memories of these guys. And then one after the other, Boog Powell runs over to first base, and one after the other, all these Orioles greats from the history. Jim Palmer runs out to the mound, and one ovation after another. And in various positions, and this went on for a while. You know, Davy Johnson ran over to second base, and then the second baseman who was there before Davy Johnson, he runs over. Mark Belanger runs out to shortstop, an all-time great Orioles short, and that's what happened. And the place just kept cheering and crying about all the great memories. And I think that the genius is that's what your memory of that ballpark was. It's those guys and those great players and great teams, because that was the Baltimore Oriole brand, to use a marketing term from now. The Orioles were not in the biggest city, they weren't in the biggest market, but they had, and Mel Allen, the great voice of the Yankees from the 30s into the 60s, when the Yankees were the great dynasty in sports history. And he said, you know, that was the Yankees back in the day, but the dynasty now for the last 20-something years is here in Baltimore. This is the team that's good every year, going back to '66 when the Orioles won their first World Series, and a contender every year right up through this '83 when they won the World Series, the last time that they won it, which was the first year I got there, which was pretty lucky if you're a broadcaster to arrive in a year that they win it all. But so anyway, so those are I think the primary memories I have of Memorial Stadium. It's incredible just to see the Brooksy come out. The music just started playing, and nobody knew what was going on because it's just totally quiet. And then all of a sudden there's Brooksy. No announcement, no announcement needed. And you could see, even if you didn't have a good view from your seat, they had the big Diamond Vision high definition screen out in the outfield, and they had the shot of Brooksy popping up out of the dugout.
You know, when you see Brooksy go out and go to third base and he starts, you know, smoothing out the dirt with his foot, you know, players have these idiosyncrasies and movements, and it could just be, you know, a shadow of them, and you know who they are right away just by the way they move and the way they carry themselves. So to see a lot of these old ball players go out and you see their old motions and you see what they do, I mean, it really pulls at the heartstrings of these fans, and even the grounds crew, you know, to see all these old players that you watched over the years, or that you tended the field for over the years. You know, I only had 6 years of history at that park, but it gripped me. It was just such a fantastic close to that ballpark, and I thought probably one of the best ways to salute the history of that park and the history of those ball players. Yeah, I remember, you know, when we first started concocting this whole idea, of course that was all, you know, that whole event was very hush-hush. Nobody was to know about it, but inside the organization, we didn't want any of the plans coming, you know, getting out for what we were going to be doing to close out Old Memorial Stadium. We wanted everything to be a surprise. And I remember they came to say, hey, we want you to dig out home plate, you know, and we're going to take it and drive it down to Oriole Park and plant it all during the ceremony. I'm thinking to myself, how the hell? That's going to be an awful long ceremony if that's what you're going to do. And then they said, oh, and we need you to dig out home plate in less than, I think it was less than 5 minutes. I can't remember if it was less than 10 or less than 5 minutes, but they want us to do it like that. I go, do you realize how deep that thing is in the ground? So if you look at the old tape of us doing it, you know, it started out, the game ended, and as soon as the players were off the field, the left field gates opened up, and in comes this, you know, big white stretch limousine, and drives down the third base side warning track, and it gets to the dugout and then pulls across the infield grass, stops right between the mound and home plate, and out pop, you know, a bunch of popsicle salesmen. Now, we're all in white tuxes, I believe. I think it was white, maybe it was black, but I thought it was white. And, you know, my guys encircle home plate like a bunch of henchmen. You know, they're all standing there with their arms crossed, dead serious look on their face. They've got sunglasses on like we've got the Secret Service here. You know, the president's going to pop out at any moment. And out pops myself and Rodney Lane, one of my, who would eventually become one of my assistants, and Jim, who was a long time old timer on the crew. And you know, we start digging in, and Rodney and I we each got a pick in our hand, and Jim's standing there with a digging bar. He's waiting for us, and we just start hacking away at this clay, you know, and that block for that home plate goes down roughly about 6 to 10 inches, somewhere in that depth. And we're digging through this heavy gumbo clay. And Rodney and I are swinging picks, and I can't believe neither one of us got hit by the other, if you watch it. And I mean, we are busting tail because you can't tell how much time you're taking. They're playing music in the background. I forget the Russian dance that they were playing when we were digging it up. And we finally bust the thing out, and we carry it over to the car. And just to give you an idea how heavy it was, when we put it in the back of the limo, the whole limo just kind of goes, you know. And all my crew got to stay, and then I got in the limo, and I think one or two of my guys also went with me. Maybe all the guys went. I don't remember now, but we drive out of the stadium, around to the side. We dumped off all my guys. They came back in so that they could watch ceremonies, and I had to ride down here to do the placement of home plate live on camera. That was then fed back to the video board back at Memorial Stadium. So unfortunately, I missed out on the best part of the ceremony with all the old players coming out. But when we come out here, you know, I didn't take that big block because there was no way I was going to be able to hand out myself. That sucker was heavy because it was so drenched in moisture and everything. It was several layers of 2x wood that the home plate was nailed to. So we had a brand new home plate in there, and we just took a brand new home plate, set it down, and okay, that's the end of the ceremony. So that's what we did. But I really wish I would have been back at the ballpark to see the ceremony. Obviously, I watched it on tape afterwards, but it was pretty special.
I remember before that last game, another moment that I kind of cherished just having seen it was they had a first ball ceremony, and Brooks Robinson came out, of course, but also Johnny Unitas came out, the legendary quarterback of the Baltimore Colts, because that stadium was the home of the Colts as well. So Brooks stood right next to Johnny U, which was incredible to see those two greats of Baltimore sports, legends, side by side. And then Brooks threw a baseball, and Johnny Unitas threw a football for the first ball ceremony from the two of them. And so that was just so cool. And you know, and that was sort of the legends of Baltimore sports, what Baltimore was known for as a sports town.